Welcome to Lost at 3 a.m. Put your phone down, close your eyes, and let this be the last video you hear tonight. Relax, breathe, and let's begin. Tonight, we enter a galaxy far, far away, but instead of focusing on the Jedi, the Sith, or the Chosen Ones, we turn our attention to a character who was just as powerful, just as important, and just as legendary, Princess Leia Organa. She was a princess, but she never needed rescuing. She was a leader, but never sought power for herself. She was a warrior, a strategist, and a beacon of hope in a galaxy consumed by darkness. From the moment she first appeared on screen, staring down Darth Vader without a trace of fear, it was clear. Leia was something different. She wasn't just a love interest, a sidekick, or royalty to be protected. She was a force all on her own. Carrie Fisher's portrayal of Leia in Star Wars changed everything. Before her, female characters in sci-fi and fantasy were often written as damsels, waiting for someone else to save the day. But Leia shattered that mold. She was sharp-tongued, quick-witted, and always in control, standing alongside the likes of Luke Skywalker and Han Solo, not as a background character, but as an equal. She wasn't just royalty. She was a fighter, a general, and a symbol of rebellion. Leia's legacy stretches beyond the original trilogy. In the sequels, she transforms from a young leader in the rebellion to the legendary General Organa, leading the resistance against the First Order. And even beyond the films, Leia remains one of the most iconic characters in pop culture, inspiring countless stories, heroes, and generations of fans. Tonight, we're going to explore her journey, how she became one of the most beloved characters in cinema, the impact she left on the Star Wars universe, and how Carrie Fisher's unforgettable performance made her a legend. So, picture yourself aboard the Tantive 4, the sounds of alarms blaring in the distance as stormtroopers breach the ship. But instead of fear, there's determination. This is where it all begins. This is the story of Princess Leia Organa. From the very first moments of A New Hope, it's clear that Princess Leia Organa is not your typical princess. She's not waiting to be saved, nor is she afraid of the galaxy's most feared villain. Instead, when she stands face to face with Darth Vader, she meets him with defiance. There is no fear in her voice when she accuses him of being bold enough to attack a diplomatic ship. She knows he has no intention of letting her go, but she refuses to give him the satisfaction of submission. Leia, even in chains, refuses to be powerless. She is already a leader in the Rebel Alliance, secretly smuggling the stolen Death Star plans inside R2-D2 in a desperate bid to turn the tide against the Empire. In just a few moments of screen time, we understand that Leia is smart, strategic, and willing to risk everything for the cause. Unlike Luke, who is just beginning his hero's journey, and Han, who is only in it for himself, Leia is already fully committed to the fight. Her capture and imprisonment on the Death Star don't weaken her. Even under interrogation, even after being threatened with the destruction of her home planet, she never wavers. She watches as the Death Star fires on Alderaan, her home, wiping out millions of innocent people, including her parents, her friends, and everyone she has ever known. And yet she doesn't break. She doesn't give Vader or Grand Moff Tarkin the reaction they want. She endures, carrying the weight of her grief in silence. Even as a prisoner, she is stronger than they are. When Luke Skywalker and Han Solo arrive to rescue her, Leia immediately takes charge. The so-called heroes have no plan and nearly get themselves killed. It's Leia who grabs a blaster, blows a hole in the wall, and leads the escape herself. She doesn't swoon over her saviors or play the helpless damsel. Instead, she rolls her eyes at Han's arrogance, calls out their lack of planning, and proves that she is more capable than either of them. Throughout A New Hope, Leia isn't just a symbol of the rebellion, she is the rebellion. While Luke is still discovering his purpose, and Han is trying to decide whether he even cares about the fight, Leia is already fully committed. She stands beside the rebel leadership, planning the attack on the Death Star, giving orders and motivating the pilots before battle. She may not fly an X-Wing, but she is every bit as crucial to the victory as Luke is. By the end of the film, when the Death Star is destroyed, Leia doesn't celebrate for long. She doesn't bask in victory. She knows the war is far from over. While Luke and Han receive their medals in a grand ceremony, she is already looking ahead, preparing for the next battle. In A New Hope, Princess Leia isn't just introduced as a strong female character. She is introduced as a leader, a warrior, and the heart of the rebellion. She is not just another character in the story. She is the reason the story exists at all. If A New Hope introduced Princess Leia as a fearless leader of the rebellion, The Empire Strikes Back took her character even deeper, balancing her strength as a military leader with her vulnerability as a person. By the time the film begins, Leia is no longer just a princess or a symbol of hope. She is a full-fledged commander, leading the rebellion from the frozen wasteland of Echo Base on Hoth. The war against the Empire is at its peak, and Leia is right in the middle of it, making tactical decisions, coordinating evacuations, and holding the rebellion together as the enemy closes in. One of Leia's defining moments in this film is during the Battle of Hoth. While the rebels are being overwhelmed by AT-AT walkers and Imperial forces, she is one of the last to leave, refusing to abandon her post until every last soldier has a chance to escape. When Han Solo forces her onto the Millennium Falcon at the last second, it's not because she's afraid, it's because he knows she would rather die fighting than run away. Throughout Empire Strikes Back, we see another side of Leia, one that isn't just focused on duty, but on her own emotions and personal struggles. The tension between her and Han Solo builds with every scene, as they bicker and challenge each other, both too stubborn to admit what's really happening. Leia has spent her entire life putting duty before herself, but Han refuses to let her hide behind her responsibilities. He calls her out, forces her to confront her feelings, and makes her acknowledge something she's never had time to consider. What does she want for herself? But Leia is not someone who gives in easily. Even when she clearly has feelings for Han, she resists, holding on to the belief that she has no time for romance in the middle of a war. It isn't until they are captured and taken to Cloud City that she allows herself to fully admit it. In one of the most famous moments in cinema history, as Han is about to be frozen in carbonite, Leia finally says the words she'd been holding back for so long, "I love you." Han's response, a simple yet perfect "I know," cements their dynamic. Their love isn't built on grand speeches or dramatic declarations. It's built on trust, understanding, and the unspoken connection between two people who have fought side by side. But Leia's story in The Empire Strikes Back is not just about love. It's about resilience and leadership in the face of overwhelming defeat. By the end of the film, the rebellion is in shambles. Han is captured, Luke is gravely injured, and hope is slipping away. But Leia refuses to let it end like this. She is the one who leads the escape from Cloud City, the one who keeps moving forward, even as everything falls apart around her. Unlike many other characters in the film, Leia doesn't have a moment of failure. She doesn't need a hero's redemption arc because she never stops fighting, never gives up, and never lets her emotions compromise her ability to lead. Even in the darkest moment of the rebellion, Leia keeps hope alive. In The Empire Strikes Back, we see the full depth of Leia's character. She is still the fearless leader of the rebellion, but she is also a woman who allows herself to love, a fighter who refuses to give up, and the backbone of the entire war effort. While Luke is learning the ways of the Jedi, and Han is lost in the hands of the enemy, Leia is the one holding the rebellion together. And as the film ends, with the heroes battered and broken, it is Leia who remains standing, ready to fight another day. By the time we reach Return of the Jedi, Leia is no longer just a leader of the rebellion. She is a warrior, a strategist, and a fighter willing to risk everything to bring down the Empire once and for all. If A New Hope introduced her as the brain of the rebellion, and The Empire Strikes Back revealed her heart, Return of the Jedi proves that she is its unstoppable force of will. Her first major moment in the film shows just how far she's willing to go for the people she loves. Han Solo has been frozen in carbonite and delivered to Jabba the Hutt, and Leia takes it upon herself to rescue him. She disguises herself as the bounty hunter Bush, infiltrates Jabba's palace, and boldly bargains for Han's life with a thermal detonator in hand. This isn't a princess waiting for her prince. This is a warrior on a mission, willing to put herself in danger to bring him home. Unfortunately, the plan fails, and Leia is captured. What follows is one of the most controversial moments in Star Wars history. Her time as Jabba's prisoner, forced into the infamous golden bikini. This scene has been debated for years, often criticized for turning Leia into a male fantasy, rather than the strong leader she had always been. But what's often overlooked is what happens next. Leia doesn't stay a prisoner for long. When the moment is right, she takes control of her own narrative, grabbing the chains that held her captive and strangling Jabba to death with her bare hands. It's brutal, it's powerful, and it proves that Leia is never anyone's victim. After escaping Jabba's palace, Leia joins the mission to take down the second Death Star. She is once again on the front lines, fighting alongside Han, Chewbacca, and the Rebel strike team on the forest moon of Endor. Even when shot during a battle, she refuses to back down, continuing to fight and ultimately playing a key role in securing the shield generator's destruction. But Leia's most significant revelation in Return of the Jedi isn't about the war, it's about her family. As Luke struggles with his identity and his connection to Darth Vader, he reveals to Leia that she is his twin sister, and that she too carries the power of the Force. This moment changes everything. Unlike Luke, who has spent his journey searching for his destiny, Leia has never needed validation or a grand prophecy to define her. Her strength has always been her own. Even as Luke insists that she has power she hasn't begun to explore, Leia's response is calm, thoughtful, and wise. She doesn't feel the same pull toward the Force that Luke does, but she doesn't need it, because she has always been strong in her own way. At the end of the war, Leia stands not just as a survivor, but as one of the key figures responsible for the rebellion's ultimate victory. She has led battles, fought alongside soldiers, endured loss, and sacrificed for the greater good. And when the final celebration takes place on Endor, she isn't basking in the victory alone. She is standing side by side with Han, Luke, and the people she fought so hard to protect. Leia's journey in Return of the Jedi cements her as one of the greatest heroes in Star Wars history. She is not just a leader, not just a warrior, and not just royalty. She is all of those things and more. The heart of the rebellion, the soul of the resistance, and proof that strength comes in many forms. But true power lies in never giving up. Decades after the fall of the Empire, Princess Leia Organa has become something even greater. A general, a mentor, and the unwavering heart of the resistance. In the sequel trilogy, we see Leia take on her most important role yet, proving that her fight didn't end with the Battle of Endor. She is no longer just a rebel leader. She is now the symbol of hope in an era where darkness has returned. By the time The Force Awakens begins, the New Republic has fallen into corruption and complacency, allowing the rise of the First Order, an organization built in the image of the Empire. The Republic refuses to take the threat seriously, so Leia does what she has always done, takes matters into her own hands. She forms the Resistance, a group of fighters willing to stand against the First Order before it's too late. While the galaxy may have moved on, Leia refuses to ignore the threat of tyranny, just as she never ignored the Empire's cruelty all those years ago. But Leia's battles aren't just political, they're deeply personal. Her son, Ben Solo, has fallen to the dark side, becoming Kylo Ren, the apprentice of Supreme Leader Snoke. Despite everything he has done, Leia never stops believing in him, holding on to hope that he can be redeemed. Unlike Luke, who sees Kylo's darkness as an inevitability, Leia still believes in the goodness within him. Even when others give up, Leia refuses to lose faith in her son. Her reunion with Han Solo, in The Force Awakens is brief but powerful. Their relationship has suffered under the weight of their son's fall, but there is still deep love between them. Leia convinces Han to try and bring Ben back, knowing that if anyone can reach him, it's his father. The tragedy of Han's death at Kylo's hands is devastating, but even in her grief, Leia does not waver. She knows the war is far from over, and she must keep going. For the Resistance, for the people who still depend on her, and even for the son she still believes in. In The Last Jedi, Leia's resilience is tested more than ever. The Resistance is on the brink of destruction, and Leia is nearly lost when the First Order attacks their fleet. In one of the most controversial, yet memorable moments of the film, she uses the Force to save herself, pulling her body through the vacuum of space back to safety. While some criticized the scene, it finally confirmed what had been hinted at for decades. Leia is Force sensitive, and though she never became a Jedi, she has always been far more powerful than she let on. With the death of Han and the loss of many of her closest allies, Leia is left with few people to turn to. Yet she remains calm, wise, and in control, trusting in Rey to carry the Jedi legacy forward, just as she carries the burden of leading the Resistance. By the time The Rise of Skywalker begins, Leia has fully stepped into her final role, mentor and guide. Despite being limited by the passing of Carrie Fisher, Leia's presence in the film is deeply felt. It is revealed that she once trained as a Jedi under Luke, but ultimately chose not to complete her training, sensing that her path was meant to lead her elsewhere. Instead, she chose to lead with her mind, her heart, and her own strength. Leia's final act is one of sacrifice and love. In a desperate attempt to reach Kylo Ren one last time, she uses the last of her energy through the Force to call to him, breaking through his anger, his darkness, and his hatred. It is this moment that begins his redemption, proving that Leia's unwavering belief in her son was not in vain. And with that final effort, General Leia Organa passes away, becoming one with the Force. Her legacy is undeniable. She was a warrior, a mother, a leader, and a symbol of defiance against oppression. Even in her final moments, Leia's strength never faded. She fought until her last breath, not for glory, not for power, but because she believed in the fight for a better future. Leia Organa was never just a princess, never just a general. She was the beating heart of Star Wars, and even in death, her legacy endures, lighting the way for those who carry on her mission. From the very beginning, there were hints that Leia Organa was more than just a leader. She was also connected to the Force. Unlike Luke Skywalker, who trained to become a Jedi, Leia's Force abilities remained subtle, something she rarely acknowledged or explored. But throughout Star Wars, her connection to the Force was always present, guiding her in ways she didn't fully understand. The first real sign of Leia's Force sensitivity comes in The Empire Strikes Back. After Luke is left wounded and near death on Cloud City, he reaches out through the Force, calling for help, and the person who hears him, Leia. Despite never receiving Jedi training, she instinctively senses Luke's distress, urging Lando and Chewbacca to turn the Millennium Falcon around and save him. It's a quiet but powerful moment, one that suggests Leia's potential is far greater than anyone realizes. By Return of the Jedi, this potential is confirmed when Luke reveals that Leia is his twin sister, and that she too is strong in the Force. At first, Leia doesn't react with excitement or awe. She simply accepts it. In contrast to Luke, who spends the entire trilogy searching for his identity, Leia has always known who she is. The Force may run through her veins, but she doesn't need to train with a lightsaber or seek out mystical guidance to understand her place in the galaxy. She is already strong. Decades later, in The Last Jedi, Leia's Force connection is fully realized in one of the most debated scenes in the franchise, her survival in the vacuum of space. After the First Order attacks the Resistance fleet, Leia is blown into the cold darkness of space, seemingly lost forever. But in a moment of pure instinct, she uses the Force to pull herself back to safety, proving once and for all that she's far more than a military leader. While some fans questioned the execution of the scene, it finally gave Leia a moment to showcase the power that had been hinted at for so long. The Rise of Skywalker expands on this even further, revealing that Leia once trained as a Jedi under Luke, even constructing her own lightsaber, but she eventually chose to walk a different path, sensing that her true purpose lay in leadership, not in the ways of the Jedi. Instead of wielding the Force as a weapon, she used it to guide her decisions, to strengthen her resolve, and to connect with those she loved. It is this same power that allows her to reach out to her son, Ben Solo, one final time, breaking through the darkness that had consumed him and setting him on the path to redemption. Leia's relationship with the Force is different from Luke's, but no less important. She may not have fought with a lightsaber, but her strength was undeniable. Her power was in her wisdom, her instincts, and her unshakable will. She was proof that the Force isn't just about combat, it's about connection, resilience, and hope. Leia Organa was not just the twin sister of a Jedi. She was a Jedi in her own right, one who chose her own destiny and proved that true strength doesn't always come from training, it comes from within. Princess Leia has given us some of the most memorable quotes and moments in Star Wars history. Whether she's delivering sharp-witted insults, inspiring the rebellion, or standing her ground in the face of overwhelming odds, her words and actions define her character as one of the most fearless and intelligent leaders in the galaxy. One of Leia's most famous lines comes from A New Hope, during her first meeting with Darth Vader. She looks him in the eye, completely unshaken, and says, "Darth Vader, only you could be so bold." In that moment, it's clear she is not afraid. She may be outmatched in power, but she refuses to give him the satisfaction of seeing her weaken. Even in captivity, she is in control. Later in the same film, when Luke Skywalker and Han Solo arrive to rescue her, Leia immediately takes charge of the situation. After seeing their lack of planning, she grabs a blaster, shoots out a grate, and says with complete authority, "Somebody has to save our skins." This wasn't the role of a damsel in distress. This was a warrior, a leader, and a woman who wasn't going to wait around for someone else to figure things out. And of course, there's The Empire Strikes Back, where Leia and Han Solo's slow-burning romance comes to a head. As Han is about to be frozen in carbonite, Leia finally lets down her guard and confesses, "I love you." Han's now legendary response, "I know," is one of the most iconic exchanges in film history. The moment is brief, but the impact is huge. It's not just about love, but about trust, connection, and the understanding that these two people would do anything for each other. Then there's Return of the Jedi, where Leia delivers perhaps her most unexpected but powerful moment, the killing of Jabba the Hutt. After being forced into captivity in her infamous golden bikini, she waits for the perfect moment. When the opportunity comes, she doesn't hesitate. She grabs the very chains that bound her and strangles Jabba to death with her own hands. It's a powerful scene, showing that Leia never needed rescuing. She was always her own savior. In the sequel trilogy, Leia remains just as strong, now as General Organa, leader of the Resistance. In The Force Awakens, she delivers a line that defines what she has always stood for. Hope is not lost today, it is found. Leia has always been the symbol of hope in Star Wars. Even when all seems lost, she refuses to give up. Even in her final moments in The Rise of Skywalker, Leia's last true act is using the Force one final time to reach her son, Ben Solo. She doesn't say a word, but she doesn't have to. Her presence alone is enough to stop him in his tracks, shaking him to his core. Leia's strength was never just in what she said. It was in what she believed, and in the impact she had on those around her. From her first moments in A New Hope to her last in The Rise of Skywalker, Leia Organa's words and actions were a testament to her bravery, intelligence, and unwavering determination. She wasn't just a princess, she was a leader, a warrior, and the true heart of the rebellion. And in a galaxy full of heroes, her voice will never be forgotten. Princess Leia is more than just a character, she is a symbol. She represents strength, intelligence, resilience, and defiance. She redefined what it meant to be a heroine in film, proving that a princess could be more than just someone who needed saving. And none of that would have been possible without the woman who brought her to life, Carrie Fisher. Fisher was only 19 years old when she was cast as Leia in A New Hope, but from the moment she stepped onto the screen, she made the role her own. She wasn't just playing a princess, she was playing a leader, a strategist, and a warrior who could stand toe-to-toe with the likes of Han Solo and Darth Vader. She brought sharp wit, intelligence, and fire to Leia, turning what could have been a one-dimensional role into something legendary. But Carrie Fisher's impact went far beyond Star Wars. She was a writer, a script doctor, and a fierce advocate for mental health awareness. She was open about her struggles with bipolar disorder and addiction, refusing to let Hollywood dictate how she should be perceived. She used her platform to destigmatize mental illness, showing that you could struggle and still be strong, flawed and still be powerful. In many ways, Leia and Carrie Fisher became inseparable. Both were unafraid to speak their minds. Both were determined to make a difference, and both left behind a legacy that would inspire generations. Leia's influence on pop culture is undeniable. She paved the way for strong female leads in science fiction and fantasy, inspiring characters like Rey, Ahsoka Tano, Katniss Everdeen, and countless others. Before Leia, female characters in sci-fi were often relegated to supporting roles. But Leia proved that a woman could be just as capable, just as courageous, and just as essential to the story as any male hero. Even after Fisher's passing in 2016, her presence is still deeply felt. The rise of Skywalker ensured that Leia's story would continue, even if the actress was no longer with us. The final scenes of the film honor not just the character, but the woman behind her. Leia was always more than just a princess. She was a fighter, a mother, a leader, and a legend. Carrie Fisher once said, "Stay afraid, but do it anyway. What's important is the action. You don't have to wait to be confident. Just do it, and eventually, the confidence will follow." That philosophy defined both Leia and Fisher herself. And because of her, countless fans, women and men alike, have found the strength to stand up, fight back, and believe in their own power. Leia may have been a princess of Alderaan, but Carrie Fisher was a queen to all of us, and her legacy will live on forever. Princess Leia Organa is more than just a character in Star Wars. She is a symbol of hope, resilience, and leadership. From the moment she first appeared on screen, she shattered expectations, proving that a princess didn't have to be passive or helpless. She could be strong-willed, intelligent, and fearless, standing alongside the greatest heroes in the galaxy, not as a sidekick, but as their equal. Her journey from a rebellious princess to a wise and battle-hardened general is one of the most powerful arcs in Star Wars history. She faced unimaginable loss, her home planet destroyed, her parents and allies taken from her, and even her own son lost to the dark side. Yet, through it all, Leia never stopped fighting. She never gave in to despair. She embodied the very thing the rebellion stood for, the unwavering belief that light would always overcome darkness. Leia's legacy goes beyond the films. She changed the way female heroes were written in science fiction and fantasy. She showed that a woman could be a leader, a warrior, and a hero in her own right, inspiring generations of strong female protagonists to follow. Without Leia, we wouldn't have characters like Rey, Ahsoka Tano, or Jyn Erso. She redefined what it meant to be a heroine, not by seeking power, but by leading with compassion, wisdom, and unbreakable determination. And of course, none of this would have been possible without Carrie Fisher. Her portrayal of Leia made her feel real, relatable, and unforgettable. Fisher's quick wit, intelligence, and rebellious spirit didn't just exist on screen. They were woven into the very essence of Leia herself. And even after her passing, her impact remains, shaping the way we see strength, leadership, and resilience in storytelling. Leia Organa was never just a princess. She was a freedom fighter, a leader, a mother, a Jedi, and a legend. She proved that you don't need a lightsaber to be powerful, that true strength comes from standing up for what's right, even when the odds are against you. And so, as we close this story, picture yourself looking up at the twin suns of Tatooine, feeling the weight of history and the hope of the future, because in every moment of defiance, in every act of courage, in every spark of rebellion, Leia Organa lives on. Thank you for spending your night with Lost at 3 a.m. Sweet dreams, and we'll see you next time.